I'm Kirby Wynn. I'm Garfield County's Oil and Gas Liaison. Does that sound right for y'all? Anyway, I just wanted to give you a few words about stakeholder engagement. We're talking about local government engagement, state government engagement, federal, as well as community and industry as well. So as Oil and Gas Liaison, tomorrow we're going to hear from Garfield County Commissioner John Martin. He's going to speak to a lot of things that the county does structurally and as decision makers, what they do to manage and assure balanced oil and gas development. So today I'm really just going to speak to my role as a local government designee in the COGCC parlance to represent Garfield County to the Oil and Gas Commission, as well as my specific role and my job title here with Garfield County is the Oil and Gas Liaison. Because really my job is 95%. It really is this liaison activity. So as I think about stakeholder engagement, and I've been doing this for about 3.5 years, going on 4 years, I can't believe it, pretty soon. You just get plenty of opportunity when you've got 10,000 wells, and there were lots of rigs when I first got here. We're a lot fewer rigs now. Oil and gas is a contentious activity, and it can be frustrating to people. There certainly are impacts. And so in Garfield County, they've had a liaison position. I'm not the first. They've had that for at least 10 years, probably going since about 2004. Many of you may know Doug Dennison. He was the first oil and gas liaison for Garfield County way back when. But the last few years, trial by fire, jumping into this, what I've learned is that it really comes down to just a few key themes. And so what I'm going to speak to you about a little bit is how to, the sort of things that I do and what I think that works. And that what I hope is you think about your local government or your county government, wherever you're going to go back to, if you think about a few things. And I got to say that Holly Prather just nailed it when her final thing, the lessons learned and these things about communication and all these different things, that slide. If you go back to anything else, that's a perfect summary of what they did well in Brighton. They don't even have that many wells. They have 35 wells, but they got it. The citizens made sure that they got it. The city council made sure that the staff got it on what it takes to listen to people. So it really comes down to investing the time and the resources. And again, I'm fortunate as a county employee. I'm a full-time oil and gas person. I say fortunate because it allows me to be fully vested in making sure that when someone has a concern or just a question, they want information, it's like, what's going on over here? I see them scratching out the earth over there, that those calls don't get dropped. It's not an other duty is assigned. So we're fortunate to be able to really invest a lot of the time and resources in it. Really, for the stakeholder engagement, it's really all about getting out there. And by getting out there, I mean getting out there and really knowing the operators, knowing the environmental health people, knowing the permitting people, knowing their land people, knowing their community relations people, knowing the vice presidents of these companies up the food chain so that you can engage with immediacy to resolve issues or get answers for your citizens, for your elected officials, and for others. So really about being proactive. It's not really as the way I look at it, at least the way I tackle it, it's certainly not an introvert's kind of job. You've got to really be willing to get out there and stretch the envelope and ask a whole lot of what people might consider, well, I don't want to ask that, it'd be embarrassing because it make me look dumb. I guess, I don't know. I don't know what a dumb question is. I just make sure that I engage people. So it's really relationship building. And I'd say that, relationships are everything for stakeholder engagement. It's a matter of not waiting for an operator to come waltzing into the office eventually and say, well, we got this permit we're going to work on, and here's a liaison, maybe you can help us navigate it. It's as the county staffer is reaching out to these people and going to them constantly so that they have a comfort level of coming to me. It's a two-way street. You're calling them all the time. Suddenly you realize they call you and there's a transparency that's built and say, hey, by the way, I realize you're so engaged in this stuff. I wanted you to know that we're having a little bit of issue over here and we're working with these residents. And so it really opens a door to information and to resolution and identification of problems and resolution. So it's really about communication with the citizens, with industry, with the state regulators. I mean, one of the key things that I do as a county staffer, and there's a number of those folks around here today, and there's a lot of them around a rifle office, but I regularly am talking to, and not in an uncomfortable and a, oh my gosh kind of way, but just engaging and learning from and working with our state regulators. And I've heard so many times around the state, and we get involved in these rulemakings and these different processes, some of them political and some of them really administrative rulemakings, but you hear people say, well, there's not enough Oil and Gas Commission staff. Well, maybe there's not, because they're about to get, I don't know what, 12, 14 more, but in my experience, we're one of the busier counties for oil and gas. I've just really haven't had the Oil and Gas Commission do anything other but step up and get right to something when we were asking for it. And we asked for some things that are above and beyond the norm. So citizens are concerned about an injection well permit that's somewhere out in unincorporated Garfield County. Everything looks by the book, pretty straightforward. There's really not much there per se, except for the perception and the fear and the concern. Oil and Gas Commission comes, and they come to a night meeting. They bring 2 staffers, and they just nail it. And they talk to these people for 3 hours and answer all their questions, and they commit to a lot of follow-up, way beyond what they have to do as processing a permit. And that really, again, I think it comes down to the relationships and the buy-in that kind of comes both ways. Transparency, I said relationships are everything. Well, transparency is everything. I can't decide. It's all about, especially with our citizenry, we certainly have our citizens that are concerned or they just don't know, they need more information, but they just have some worry or outright fear of some activity. So transparency is where it's at. They want to know what the decision makers, our Board of County Commissioners, are doing and how they're deciding things. So these things happen in public. Our county commissioners, they created, again, 10 years ago, something called the Garfield County Energy Advisory Board. And it was really all about transparency and also the first step of trying to create an immediate way for someone to say, hey, my name's Kirby, I live over here, and there's this dust constantly going by, these trucks. Whose trucks are they and who can help me? So we have this public meeting. It's filmed every month on the Rifle Access TV. We have 26 or so members representing geographic areas of Garfield County. All of our operators sit on that board on a voluntary basis. They don't have to. It's not tied to permits, but they do it. We have the municipalities and myself representing the county, and we have some NGO type of non-government organizations as well. But we have a 2 to 3 hour meeting, and it's free speech reigns. People can come right up to the microphone and they can just rail against industry if they want to, or they can just ask questions. We have educational things. And here in the last year, we've really focused on being advisory. We are an energy advisory board. Our job is to advise our county commissioners, be the eyes and ears, and be the ones doing a lot of study to advise our commissioners what they need to know about issues or potential issues related to oil and gas and potential solutions, that sort of thing. So it's a real positive thing. And again, I can't get any more transparent than 7:30 at night, you're on Rifle TV, and everybody's watching every word and every whisper that goes on during the meeting. That's as transparent as it gets, I assure you. We have Northwest Oil and Gas Forum. Our commissioner co-chairs that. One of our commissioners do with Matt Lepore, director of the Oil and Gas Commission. That's a quarterly meeting. Back in the day, I used to go to those meetings long before I worked for the county, and it was, there was 100+ people in that room in the early days of that. And now it's lesser, but it's, again, a place where people can get updates from industry and from the governments and learn about oil and gas issues that they want. Again, those are televised as well. As a liaison, and a lot of county staff have been involved in this over time, the operators themselves, they have their own meeting processes. You've got 12 operators actively doing things in this area. In their parlance, they came up and said, we need to get together monthly or so and just compare notes. What's our issues with, say, permitting, or we have anything with, say, the state regulators? Is there something for the county? They invited the county, as I understand it, a few years ago to participate in that. So once a month I'll go and before the Energy Advisory Board meeting, I'll sit down with a bunch of operators from around the county, and we can just across the table, very comfortable discussion about issues. They may have an issue or a question with the county. Hey, who do we talk to about this? Or gosh, could you tell them this is causing a strain for us? Just to open the communication and facilitate things. And I give them issues that I'm seeing in terms of odor, dust, traffics, the type of things that are driving citizens perhaps crazy at the time. And it's a meaningful discussion. It's very real, and it's a mutual respect, and it helps solve problems. Timeliness is everything. So maybe transparency isn't everything. Maybe it's timeliness, and that I really mean is because if somebody made something about for us, say, well, yeah, Kirby, he has a cell phone or whatever. Like you saw the dog and pony show. Well, that wasn't a bit of theater. My phone is connected to this 24-hour hotline. 866-442-9034. You hit extension 9 at 2 o'clock this morning. I might be a little bit tired, but I'll probably answer the phone. And that's very real. And so I get these calls, not that often at 2 in the morning, but I get them at all hours of the day and days of the week. And when I can just humanly, reasonably kind of do that, I get those calls and I pick them up. And someone has a concern, and I'll call one of our operators in our county area, wherever nearby where these people are having the issue, and they've got somebody over there like within the hour. On average, doesn't matter what time of day it is, they've got people out and around there. And I've got some folks over here like Jeff Powers over here to pick on him from Ursa. I mean, he's great. He lives in the Rifle area. I give him a call, and he's out of his house, and he's getting on it, and he's talking to the resident whenever that is. That's meaningful, meaningful stuff. So that timeliness of people are so afraid when they know they have an issue or concern, they just, a lot of times I get these calls and I go, well, you're just this county guy, you're government. I know you're not going to do anything, but I've just had it, so I need to complain somewhere and do something. And then what we do on so many occasions is it's like you win someone over one at a time, and then they'll tell someone else, like, you know, they've got this process around here. So you got the liaison, you got these operators that are jumping on stuff, and people realize it's like, well, if you just ask, you probably get it. Instead of the assumption that the government's not going to help you, that sort of thing, or the operators don't care. We prove it in spades. And again, it comes down to these relationships. These operators know when I'm calling them. I'm not kidding around, and I'm not a regulator. I'm not a regulator at all. But a lot of times we have these nuisance or these issues. I'm not calling the Oil and Gas Commission inspector every time. If we can get it resolved quickly and take care of the residents' need, it's done. That's a grand success. It's not about having an administrative process and have it go through the state agency. But our operators know too. If somebody says anything and they can say, well, I think something might be happening to my health, or I've got a bloody nose, or whatever, or something, I do call the regulators. I call the Air Pollution Control Division. I call the Colorado Oil and Gas Commission. Call other folks at the CDPHE if I need to, because again, if someone raises an issue, it's not for me to be a doctor and decide if it's really real or if it's related or not. So we take every complaint very seriously. We get on them quickly. So that's what the stakeholder engagement really looks like to me. The issues that we deal with are, just the obvious ones. A lot of you know, maybe some of you don't, but noise. If you've got a droning noise coming through your house, and it's 2 in the morning, yeah, if you've got a number to call, you're going to call it. That's going to drive you crazy, make your husband crazy, or your wife crazy, your kids, and these are serious issues. Odors, if there's some sort of oil and gas related odor related to some activity, traffic issues, speeding, discourteous driving, road conditions, get calls on those. Water worries, I'll say. People just say, well, I'm worried about my well, I need some information. I'm concerned because they have an injection well over here, there's this well pad over there, how's my water? And our county commissioners support a process where if our citizens want a water sample, they get it. Just get a good suite of stuff and just answer the question. Other times I'll ask an operator if it makes sense. Sometimes our operator will go ahead and get that extra sample for them as a courtesy, but regardless, as a backup, the county will get them a water sample, and just let's don't try to figure out if it makes sense. Let's just get you the data so you can know. Air quality worries is a big one. And in Garfield County, the county spends, I think, over $1 million a year overall when you add the O&M for air monitoring. There's millions over the years. It's many millions of dollars of air monitoring data that we have in Garfield County. Just the other day, there was an update from our consultants, and they explain how our air continues to get better, even as our production levels have gone up, actually. And that's a great thing. And if you're a county person like me, or if you're our county commissioners, I can only presume that they are glad to have hard data and good science to know what they need to know, rather than to wonder or just like, gosh, maybe the air pollution control, maybe they put an air monitoring station over here. So in Garfield County, the approach has been, well, let's just get this stuff. Let's don't wait around. These are our people that are on the line, our citizens, et cetera. And so we have a massive monitoring and assessment program for air quality just to make sure we know. And so that's a great thing. We did bring that to bear. It was a beautiful thing, I thought, to take at that point. I think about $3 million worth of data from 5 extensive air monitoring sites throughout Garfield County, including a lot of the areas around where there's a lot of oil and gas. And we took that data to the Air Pollution Control Division, and I still smile because there was a lot of lawyers in the room. There were a lot of suits. And Holly, again, she talked about hire experts. So we hired experts to really help us carve through the data, to do the trends analysis and to verify the trends analysis. So we were able to bring this data, and we were able to show something. This is meaningful stuff. Bring some science to bear. That'll help you engage. We showed as our natural gas production and our natural gas liquids production were absolutely peaking through 2012. We showed our air quality improving right there at the Air Quality Control Commission hearing. I mean, that was a wonderful thing to be able to have the data to say, because the state was saying at the time, is that, well, we need to cut back on methane emissions, and so that's a goal, that's a thing, but we were able to show for sure that we have better air quality today than we did when we had, 5-7 years ago. And the state experts themselves said that is because of the improved BMPs on the well pads, long-term production. It has nothing to do with fracking or drilling. It's really those 10,000 wells out there. They've been retrofitted in Garfield County well ahead of these regulations. So that's a great thing to know, and it's really comforting to be able to share that with our citizens. So that's another way we engage, is we have this transparent process, and we put out reports, we put them online, and the citizens can see for themselves exactly what they're breathing. And that's that's meaningful stuff. The other thing is, when we talk about these issues that we have that people bring up, and again, in the stakeholder engagement, thick skin's not a bad thing. When people are frustrated, or they're outright angry, or they're just distrustful, they are exceedingly candid. They are very candid. You hear just almost anything. And so it's not what they're saying or how they're saying. It's these calls. And Holly, again, I think she did a nice job. She talked about, you have the patience to listen. I get these calls in my engagement. It's like somebody's like, first they're starting off and they're saying some pretty colorful things about me personally, and that they're just angry. And I know that it's not. They haven't even met me, and so it's just a matter of really listening. And then I have these calls 40 minutes in, and I don't know how somebody has enough breath to not breathe for 40 minutes, but then they finally inhale, and I'll get a chance to maybe help turn the discussion, or I've listened enough, and I realized that what they were screaming about when they first called really had nothing to do with what the actual thing was that set them off today. They really were upset because they were distrustful 3 years ago, or they felt like somebody sort of ran over them, as it were, 2 or 3 years ago, and so there's just this broken relationship and this distrust. And so we get to that, and we actually, enough listening, you realize that those problems are really pretty finite and simple, but they're not easy to find. You have to take a lot of time and invest that time and that resource and the competence to listen to them and to know who to go to get them the answers they need or the resolution to a problem. So that's, to me, as an oil and gas liaison and a local government designee, what it kind of looks like to me to say we're doing stakeholder engagement with local governments, state governments, industry, as well as certainly our citizens in our community. That's all I have for you today.